Looks like it's up.
All right, you good, Devin?
We are live.
All right, then let's get this started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Tecumseh Public Schools Board of Education. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Tony Robatero.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tony. Next up, we have our good news this week. We're going to have a slight change in the agenda. And Rick, take it away.
By completely my own fault, we had advertised that we would be talking about our fall athletes, but I never communicated that to the athletic director, which makes it a little difficult for him to organize that process. So we'll have him on in 2 weeks. We'll have the honors, postseason honors from all of the fall sports, and then a full athletic report. So, in no slight replacement, I asked Tom Hawkins to appear on screen. He's going to be available for a possible discussion later for the board. But just wanted to bring him in to say thank you and have the board with an opportunity to thank Tom. When we entered the school year and all through last summer as we prepared for the school year in the pandemic, we were just not exactly sure how everything was going to go in terms of cleaning and sanitation and keeping things sanitized. And that's one thing that I told Tom at the beginning of the year, that of the two, clean and sanitize comes first. So if he got in a pinch and had to make any adjustments to the schedule, just make sure that we're getting things to the point where, virus would be contained. And so far, we've said this numerous times, up to this point, halfway through the school year, we still have not seen anything that health department officials would consider an outbreak, and that would be 3 or more cases that were passed along through the facilities by contact. And there's certainly lots of reasons for that, and one of them is definitely the work that Tom and his crew have been able to do. And it's a small crew. Even though we have added positions to the budget, finding people to do the work that it takes to get things done has been difficult. So, Tom, thanks for appearing on screen, and just want to say thank you to you and to your group for doing what you can to keep everybody in the organization safe. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. That'll bring us to our public comment on agenda items. There was no one for our public comments, which will bring us to our agenda proper. Are there revisions to the agenda, or can I get an approval on the agenda as written? I think Tony's talking, but he's also muted.
Yes, thank you. Did we want to add a discussion about the building activity usage?
Yes, indeed. That would be a building use discussion without action. So we will add that to the discussion items, building use or school use discussion. I think we also have to change out the, I just realized this, scheduled reports. We had a fall athletics update that we have to take off and replace that with a facilities update. Which puts our two changes as the facilities update replacing athletic department and adding a discussion for building use or school use. Were there any other revisions? Everybody's quiet.
No.
Could I get a motion to approve the revised agenda, please?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call vote to approve the agenda. Becky?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as revised. First scheduled report will be facilities update. Whoop. Here it comes.
Again, I notified Tom just a few minutes ago that he would be the fill-in guest reporter tonight. So more or less, if you have any questions about what has been going on or any specific items, I think that's probably going to be easier than him trying to give an overall rundown.
Tom, have we had any crises with the buildings going into winter here and getting into the real cold stuff? All the boilers up and running, no problems?
Yeah, boilers are running good. We've just had our normal wear and tear on things that just break down, and we just address those as quickly as possible. But nothing really too major right now, so pretty happy about that. But I definitely wanted to say that, you know, when it regards to the cleaning and the disinfecting, I really appreciate what Rick had to say. But the big thing for me is just knowing that my crew and those guys and ladies, that what they do and the time they put in, they really work. They really work. And this year's been a little bit of a struggle. They've been asked to do a lot more, and we actually have a little bit less of a crew than we had last year. So the amount of work that they put in and the job they do, I'm super proud of that. So just really proud of my team.
How are we doing on cleaning supplies and such? Are the supply chain taxed? Are we have a depth of supply to get us through, or are we getting it by the skin of our teeth?
No, we actually been doing pretty good. The vendor that we use has been very reliable, and just been keeping us supplied really well. Actually, there was a time there, kind of when at the beginning of school, when things were kind of tough to get, and you had to kind of be creative in how we got stuff. But right now, everything seems to be flowing pretty good.
Thank
How's
you.
everything going at the two buildings that we don't, that we aren't barely heating? The one elementary we're not using, and the board office. Everything's okay over there?
Yes, ma'am. We have one of the maintenance guys goes to each of those buildings and checks on them every day.
Oh, perfect. And how about the move? You getting prepared for the move? And I know you guys are planning early, and the reconfiguration. And
Yes, ma'am. One of the things it's going to hopefully work in our favor is east being open. And so there may be some things we can jump on early and not having to
Right,
wait for
yes.
summer and do some actual cleaning beforehand, and maybe move some things beforehand. So it may work in our favor.
yeah, that's a very awesome idea, to try to get those rooms ready and get that building ready. So then all you really have to do is move furniture in and people.
Yes, ma'am. If we do it right, we may be moving minimal furniture and just moving
Right.
people. So I'm hoping we can jump on it pretty quick and get some stuff done.
Yeah, that's great. Good thinking.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sir.
You've been doing a great job, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Anything else for Tom? They look pretty quiet, Tom. You got off easy tonight.
I like it. I like it.
Appreciate it.
Thank
We'll
you,
stick
Tom.
around a little bit longer, and we'll maybe have some questions when we get to that discussion about facility use.
Sounds good. I'll be here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Next scheduled report, Kelly Glenn with our monthly finance report. Kelly?
Good evening, board. Just a few things this evening. January is the 7th month in our fiscal year that's most recently completed. Cash on hand at the end of January for all funds in all bank accounts is $11,460,531.27. Revenue for all funds for that same period is $18,149,144.13. And expenditures for that same period, again, for all funds, is $13,008,560.90. January check runs, AP runs for the month were $520,316.82. And I answer any questions for the board.
I mean, just in general, how do you feel? I mean, you feel like we're in good shape? I mean, what keeps you awake at night, if anything?
Don't get me wrong, there's always challenges in school finance, but I can give you all honesty, nothing's keeping me awake at night. Tecumseh's in good fiscal health. Our revenues are exceeding our expenditures, and we anticipate that occurring into the year. In fact, adding to the fund balance this fiscal year, which is always a positive.
Very
Good.
positive.
All right. Any other questions for Kelly? They're letting you off easy again.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, Kelly. Thank you very much. That'll bring us to our discussion items. First discussion item is our 2021-2022 School of Choice documents.
Okay, they were provided in your packet. Nothing really exciting about them. Are there any questions about it? We'll have it on for approval at the next meeting, just kind of the regular business that the board has to do every year this time.
I mean, is there anything here different than what we used in the past?
No, just change the year.
All right. Any other questions? Going once, twice, three times. Superintendent goals, next up on the discussion list. Superintendent, take those goals away.
Okay, so also provided in your packet were 7 goals, which might seem like a lot, but the 3 of them, the first 3 are continuation goals, just things that got either slowed down or paused due to the current conditions. So what I tried to do with the other goals was to fill in each of the different areas of superintendent evaluation, but also address items in the district that were meaningful. So the first one is the continuation goal of getting the administrative guidelines in place. While the board policy is the responsibility of the board, one of the main responsibilities of administration is to have guidelines that flesh out details of those policies. So we will be working on these throughout the year and giving regular updates, but that will be the completion of the board policy manual once the AGs are finished. And the goal is to have those done in November of this year. The second one has to do with implementing the rest of the building and organizational changes. As Tom mentioned, the Herrick Park building will come back into service, and the Compass building will return to a 5th through 8th grade configuration. We will finish with 2 ELC buildings as they are now, K2, 2 ILC buildings or intermediate learning centers at Herrick Park and Patterson, and 5-8 and a 9-12. So the goal is to have that done when school starts in August or September. The next one is the district strategic planning process. I put November as the intended goal date, but we would really like to get that done sooner. It's a process that really needs to be directed from the outside. And when one of the organizations, either MASA or MASB, is working again in those capacities, we will engage with a consultant and start that process. But getting it done by November is certainly realistic, I believe. The fourth goal is a new goal in terms of getting a curriculum review cycle put in place. This is something that we want to have done this spring, because we've already begun talking about the process. Shortly after I came on board, the district adopted a math program, and that needs to be completed. We only adopted a 6-12 math program, and the K-5 portion needs to be reviewed and brought in line. And then we also want to be reviewing the K-12 ELA, English Language Arts program. So we'll start that review cycle, and then that'll be a 5-year cycle where each core subject area is reviewed annually. And then the 5th year would be the encores, or the non-core subject areas would receive attention for one of those 5 years. So we will start that process this spring. Goal area 5 is having to do with finance and budget. And that has to do, and it's been talked about more than once in the last several months, about having a transparency process specifically for activity funds and fundraising. So we have some draft documents that will be ready to bring to the board no later than June, probably earlier. But those documents will have a process that starts out with approval, and in the approval section of the process, any group, whether it's athletics or at the building levels, will talk about what the fundraising project is, what the funds are supposed to be dedicated towards, and a timeline. And then there'll be a follow-up report process that involves explaining how much was raised, whether or not the goal was met, if there was an overage, what that money is going to be allocated for, or rolled forward. But just a reporting process so that the board is kept well aware of what's happening in all of the different departments when it comes to fundraising. So the goal is to have that done by late spring, and we'll definitely meet that goal. Under staff relations, goal number 6, the goal is to negotiate and complete a contract agreement with the TEA. Both sides in preliminary discussion with the association were both very interested in having this done before going into the summer. So We've had some early discussions about what we accomplished last year and how that's going to guide the discussion this year. And I feel like we have a pretty good agreement on how that's going to look. But our goal is to get that done and wrapped up in June of this year. And then the final goal area has to do with community relations, and that is that in May of 2021, we want to make sure that we promote and get past the recreational millage for the support of the pool. It's a 0.25 mil that pretty much covers all of the operational costs. There's a small contribution by the district, but without that funding, our contribution would be a much bigger responsibility. So definitely want to set that as a goal to get past on that May election date. So those are the things that I put forth as my goals. Not the only things to accomplish this year, but at least those items to keep the district functioning in the next calendar year.
Thank you, Rick. There are also some, obviously some overlap there between the board goals discussion and the superintendent goals discussion. So we're going to cover some of those overlaps here. Anyone have questions for Rick regarding his goals presentation?
Yeah, I do.
Tony?
So I guess, again, I'm going to apologize for being new and asking some of these questions. So on the goal number 3, which is the strategic plan, and then the goal number 6, which is the TA agreement, are those, how much board involvement are there on those before you're actually executing them?
Well, in terms of the strategic plan, there's a lot of board involvement, but there's also community and staff involvement. And then when that facilitated process is through, and there's been input from the community and staff and board members, then the board makes a resolution to adopt that strategic plan, and then it becomes the job of the superintendent to implement. So some direct and some indirect on the strategic planning. And in terms of negotiations, it'll be my responsibility to keep you posted on the different things, whether it's the financials or just language items. And we will more than likely have an executive session at least once to talk about board strategy and limits when it comes to the negotiating process. So there'll definitely be input by the board in the front end, and then of course at the back end when there's approvals to make sure that things are to the board's liking.
Okay, and then the second question, I mean, notes that I had, and I apologize for not getting to these beforehand.
No problem.
I was out of town till this afternoon. So is there a part of your review process that covers the increase in testing scores? Is that covered in a different section of your review?
Yeah, the evaluation scores in the superintendent's evaluation, that is another portion, the achievement scores by the district. So part of the superintendent evaluation is based on goals. Part of it is based on evidence and rating areas. And then the third piece is student achievement. And that plays, at this time by legislation, 40% of the evaluation is based on those achievement scores.
So with that being such a significant part, should there be some goal in there about trying to achieve some level? Or, I mean, I know it's not one of the goals, but it's certainly a goal to increase that score, those scores.
Yeah, what has typically been done is that the same standard is applied to the superintendent that is applied to the teaching staff. And that has to do with certain percentages being met. And I'll definitely provide that information for the board before we get to that. And just to review the overall process again, my current evaluation status is that we moved from December to May for last year's goals and evaluation. The goals that I just mentioned will be reviewed and evaluated at the end of this calendar year in December. So you'll have kind of a rough draft or a dry run in May when it comes to the wrap up of the 1920 evaluation. And then 6 months later, we're going to do it again, beginning of December for the current calendar year.
So I understand it. Thanks for explaining. I just halfway expected to see something in there about increasing our test scores. If that's not appropriate, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And think about it. And if you don't, I mean, that's not appropriate. But that's kind of one of the things I thought I might see on your list.
Yeah, that's the one that I can address the least, only because there are standards that are set, and whatever level that we achieve, that's the rating area that goes into my evaluation. The items that I do have some ability to impact are the rating areas by achieving things and setting goals and accomplishing those. So I'll send that out certainly prior to the May evaluation that shows how the achievement ratings are devised. I don't know, because we didn't take a state evaluation last year, and we may not take a state test this year. We'll see. What we'll have to go by this year is the pre and post tests from the Admentum tool that we took in September and that students will take again in the first part of May. So we'll have some pre and post testing, and whatever standards are applied to the teaching staff get applied to the superintendent, so that we're all working on the same thing when it comes to objective evaluation score.
I have something to say. I'd like to interject that we had been talking about it, probably, Tony, a long time ago, finding a way where I don't feel like we get proper data on how kids are improving in math or not improving, or where we compare with the state or where we don't, or how we fess up nationally, how are our kids improving from year to year? Our fourth grade group is this particular EIP group improving? We don't have a good way to track it, and we had looked at the possibility of our math department helping us put together a way so we could track our own information. We would know how student achievement went from year to year through every subject, and if classes were successful or they weren't, or
I think that was something we kind of. Go ahead, Susan.
Right, but that might be more of a board goal, and that I personally 100% agree with Tony. Statistics, numbers don't lie. So I really don't have anything good that I could look at that's a simple one-page graph or whatever of a history of our improvement in math or our improvement in athletics or anything for that matter. So that would be a good tool for all of us.
I think we
It's something we should talk about.
I think we kind of got started on that, and I think
Right.
it got waylaid by COVID, because it's been really hard to set a bar when.
No, but we don't even have a system in place.
Right. No, this
So-
would be a great time to start getting that system in place.
We need a system that needs a starting point.
Right. Like I said, I know we were talking about it. I think it was something that we were kind of working on, but kind of got waylaid by COVID. So, but yeah, I mean, that's something we can certainly look at now. There's been an ongoing, in reference to what Rick had said about the bar that they're doing the teachers, and this is the same that they're doing the superintendent by. And that's kind of a big discussion right now, because where do you set that bar when the school has been in chaos for a year. So there's just some ongoing discussions about all that stuff. But we can certainly.
I totally get that, but we need a starting point. We don't even have
Right.
we don't even have the groundwork set. So, and we would certainly take that into consideration that, hey, we're slipping over here. We don't even have that information. We don't know if we're slipping. We assume we are. And Rick has told us we are, we are struggling in some areas, but we've also gained back, but I've not seen the actual numbers.
I think last time we had a meeting, Greg mentioned, there's lots of ways to fix problems. One was by getting more students. Well, you get more students to come here by giving data and showing
Right.
the world that we're a school of excellence, right? That's one thing I said during the, we need to become a school of excellence. We need to show that our test scores are higher than everybody else, and we need to figure out a way to get there. I mean, certainly the strategic plan will be part of that. But I mean, Suzanne, you can't fix anything if you don't measure it, right? That's one of the basic laws of
You don't even know if you're improving, for sure.
Right. So I guess as we get data, but that's probably gonna be something you're gonna hear me bring up. When you guys support me as well, because I think it's important. You have to track it, or you don't want to get better.
And I believe that the last time we had the discussion about the data was when we were postponing the superintendent's evaluation. And it was determined at that time that to benchmark the students' improvement, we would need that original set of data, which was in the fall, if I'm correct, Rick. We took that in the fall, and then we're going to take those same tests in the spring to measure student improvement, to start that process of having a benchmark and showing improvement or targeting areas that need improvement on our end, right, Rick?
Yeah, the spring testing will give us really our first taste of comparable data since the shutdown began almost a year ago. So yeah, I'm very interested as well, Suzanne, to get some information that we can start with and over time compare and look at trends and see how we measure against other places and where our gaps are. But because we are absent of state testing data for the last 2 years, it's right now very difficult.
Oh, right. I get that. But what I'm saying is, why are we relying on state test data? Why don't we do our own data? I mean, we should be collecting data in all different types. Like, how many of our kids leave and go to college and are successful? How many do we hook up in the plumbers union? How many? I mean, we should have a way to track, like Tony said, our successes, and that would also help us know, hey, we can do a better job over here. We really aren't connecting guys and girls with the trades, or we aren't, our math scores are stagnant, or whatever. I mean, it would show us a lot, and we would not be dependent on the state. We should definitely be doing our own thing. I don't know what other schools do, but it would make sense that they would do something.
Okay, well, in terms of common assessments at our grade levels, we certainly can mine for some of our own data there. The summative evaluation piece is the one that's a little bit more difficult. The formative stuff internally, we can take a look at, and we can put together an academic data report. We got a text from Lisa Shirk, who loves data, while we were talking. So she's out there watching, and she is suggesting that we can put together an internal report on academics. So we'll work on that.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Rick before we move on to board goals?
Rick, did you say that you're using Admentum for the pre and post test?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We
Is
did
that all
that.
grades?
We did that so that we could be comparable with the virtual academy, the distance learning, and the face-to-face.
Okay, and are we doing that, what grades? Is it K-12 or do we start it later?
No, it's a K-12.
And we have our own reading test. Well, is the state reading test even in play this year?
That remains to be seen. It's a spring test, and there has been some suggestion that's going to be suspended again.
Okay.
But we're preparing to take the state assessment.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions? All right, that'll move us on to our discussion of board goals and training. I sent everyone a training report. Thank you, Terry, for developing that. I sent everyone a training report that had their training transcript on it. And I also sent a PDF just before the meeting. The MASB in, I believe, 2 weeks has their Winter Institute. It is virtual this year, so it makes it a little bit easier. There's no travel and you can take it from home, but they will have live virtual classes. I'm encouraging everybody to take a look at what they're offering and what your availability is and add some classes to your individual board member resume. I've already talked to MASB this week. There is still no plan. We don't know when we're going to be able to go back to in-person meetings, let alone having in-person training sessions, skills building, or team building. However, I talked to them this week and I'm trying to push for some plan going forward. So when we do get that release from the state, that we can jump on it and get it done as soon as possible. Were there any questions about the board member training? All right, nothing there. Board goals. I got some input from a few board members on goals. We've talked about a couple of them, developing a strategic plan. That kind of overlapped with the superintendent's goals. We need to get that done. It was derailed by COVID. We've already talked about the contract with the teachers, getting that back underway. The TAA contract, there was interest in getting that done sooner than later. Rick, do you have input on that before we move on to the board discussion about it?
Yes, we received a resolution from Troon in terms of recognition, but that just came this morning. And because it's not really that time sensitive, we're going to put it on the next agenda. The first step is for the board to recognize the TAA as a group. And then I can share with you what we've done in terms of contract. Most of the members have seen it, but Tony and Greg have not. But then we can talk about negotiating from that basic agreement and then finishing up. So once that recognition piece is done, I think it'll be maybe 2 or 3 board meetings away from being completed.
Thank you, Rick. We have already talked about the test score benchmarking and student improvement. We kind of had that discussion along with the superintendent. Administrative goals. That would be what we had talked about, the administrative guidelines. There we go. We had already talked about that, getting those in place. That was understandably delayed, as was getting our policy updated. So that's underway already. Rick talked about the GASB 84, the full implementation. That comes, Kelly, that is still on schedule to come this year. Or Rick, do you know, is that still on? They delayed it until this year, implementing it fully, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So that'll be implemented fully, and that's going to require a lot more transparency and a lot more record keeping for all fundraising. Anything that touches the schools or the students in support or just donation even will need more oversight and more reporting. So we're going to have to get into that as we get closer to it. Is there a date for when that is fully implemented, Rick or Kelly? Or is it just whenever they get to it?
June 30th, 2021.
Yeah, so
June 30th.
that'll be, all of those accounts will be in this year's audit.
Okay. As far as the internal accounts and such, will all be in that, correct?
Correct.
Exclusive of any booster fundraising or PTO fundraising and such. All right, so we've already addressed that. Simplified student improvement reporting, we did already address that one. All right, so we also have goals to have our graduation in a more traditional manner, even if it's outside. We have finished the reorganization, which I believe is well underway. I don't think there's any question of that being that was on your goals too, Rick.
Yep, yeah, we'll get that done. That's going to be exciting, actually. That's one of the things that when we talk about it, everybody just sort of forgets about COVID stuff and gets excited. It's nice.
Here's one that I like particularly. Tim contributed this one, develop a computer science curriculum and start a committee for it. Tim, would you like to add support for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have we have schools coming in and recruiting athletes. We could have companies coming in and recruiting computer programmers or coders. You don't need to have a college degree to become a coder, and it's really a skill trade. And I'd like to see us try to develop something in that area. Because this is the way the world's moving. So,
And for sure, we've equipped the students with the technology to get at least started on it. That's for sure. Rick, what does the ISD have in their programs with their skilled trades and such? Do they have programs that would support this? If we started our end, can we push them to more advanced programs there?
They do. I don't know exactly the depth to which they go into coding, but I know this. They hired Brian McDowell away from us, and specifically for his knowledge and ability with coding. So if they haven't gotten that far yet, they probably will be developing that. If we wanted to have something like that within our own district, it's certainly something that our administration could begin to work on. There's a funding process through the ISD that would allow us to try a program like that as a pilot with some funding. So we could go through that avenue and just funnel all that to the district curriculum committee and bring it to the board for approval.
Becky, Greg, Tony, Suzanne, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have full support for that. I mean, that's certainly the world part of the world I came from, and high demand. And fact be known, there's a lot of our students are probably doing it already. I mean, you talk to some of these kids, and whether it's web design or computer coding, they're doing it, right? So I think we get a huge amount of interest, and that's the kind of program that brings students to us, right? I mean, that's a great idea.
I think that's something we talked about in the past year or so, and I think we've got the ability to do some of that to start with, possibly through our TVA. And Devin, who's a coder and done a lot of programming in the past, I mean, he's pretty familiar with things like C++ and Python, and we can provide kids with some skills that I don't think it'd break very many parents' hearts if their kids didn't have to go to college and they could graduate and start making $50,000 a year.
Right.
And that potential really does exist.
Well, and we can even get them some exposure into the networking, right? Becoming Cisco certified, and there's all kinds of certifications in that world that are the skill sets that are very much in demand. That's a great idea, Tim.
I mean, there's a lot of parents that want their kids living with them until they're 30, but there's a fair share that don't.
Becky, Suzanne, anything to tag on there?
No, sir.
No, I think it's a great idea. Whatever happened with our esports? Is that still going on? I haven't heard anything about it.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if esports was set aside with the rest of athletics with the whole COVID thing. I haven't heard anything about it, but I'm going to guess at our next meeting, Rick will remember to tell John that he has to come to a meeting, so we can ask him then.
Yeah, we'll get an update from John on that as well.
All
And
right.
this time I'll tell him ahead of time.
Thank you, Rick.
Good idea.
Yeah.
All right. I think there's pretty good board support for that as a goal. Graduation ceremony, I think outside on the football field, inside if we can, as normal as we can this year should be our goal. I know it's my goal. I know everyone I've talked to on this board is individually stated that's a great desire. And I'm going to assume that everyone in the district's thinking the same way.
Mr. Niles is texting me and saying that we have 5 esports teams right now that are fully running.
They are running. Okay.
They are
We're
non-contact.
going to have to get some newspaper coverage on those.
That's right.
What was that, Tim? I didn't catch it.
I said they are non-contact, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is
Oh, yeah,
true.
we haven't heard anything about it, so good.
Go online
Yeah.
betting.
All right, we changing our financial report. I'm sorry. Are we any other comments on the esports or graduation ceremonies before I move on?
Right now, we've got clearance for 250 people at indoor sporting events and 500 for outdoor events, and hopefully that will only increase by the time graduation rolls around in June.
What is our graduating class? How many people?
It's around 210.
You know?
Now that you've asked that, Dennis will probably text me a number, so I'll get it to you in a minute.
All right. Moving on, another goal, financial reporting. Unfortunately, half of the requesting duo is not here to get specifics on. So a month-to-month budget and comparisons to previous years. Tim, would you like to expound?
Yeah, well, I think it would make it a lot easier for not only the board, but the general public to actually see what our budget is. I mean, typically, I know this is school budgeting, but typically when you do a budget, you have month-to-month budget. You compare it to the previous year and so forth. Right now, we really don't have that. It's kind of just an ongoing comparison from 7 months total and so forth. And I think it would make it a lot easier if we could have a month-to-month budget and post it on the website too, so people understand, what is going on with their schools. So, I look at how the city does their budgeting process and their agendas and so forth. And I bring this up because I was at a meeting the last couple city meetings for something else. And, I like how they have their agendas on the website. You can click the link and it takes you to their check report and so forth, or whatever items are on the agenda. So just more or less more transparency for public and a better way for people to actually see the data and understand it. So
you're saying that it's laid out that they have their agenda up on their webpage and they hot link from the agenda directly to the reports that they're talking about during the agenda?
yeah.
So if we had your thoughts are if we had it broken down into the simplest form with the data in it, not the whole check register or hundreds of pages here, but break
Well,
it
they
down
do-
to the form.
Well, they do. They break it down right down to the check register. So if you want to look at the city check register, you hit the link and it downloads the file for you. So, but like I said, I recommend go checking it out. It's really nice. Very transparent on what's going on. You know, no one could say they didn't know about it because they gave you all the information. And like I said, on the budget reporting, I'd like to see more of a, all right, here we are in January, and this is what it compared to January of last year. You know, there's always going to be fluctuations, but at least it's easier to pick those out and say, okay, what was the issue here? You know, so it would just make it a lot nicer for the board and for the general public to understand what actually goes into the budgeting and everything as well, too.
All right. Well, I think that would probably be a good goal to review all of that and see if we can improve the process and reporting. And that, of course, can be spearheaded by Kelly and Rick and give us some options that they can do. And we'll see what the board does with it. That would be something I would be in favor of. Greg, Becky, Tony, Suzanne?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I've been asking for that, you know, all along, so absolutely.
Yeah, it's easier to read version would be, you know, and I agree with the comparison from a year before, and that kind of, you know, I don't want to say dumb it down, but yeah, it just makes it more simple for people that aren't you know, a John Benzing or a Milt Abbott.
Okay.
When we first started on this board, I went to several schools and did review what they had posted for their budgets. And there are several of our local districts that do have a budget posted. I won't call it user friendly, but there is a basic budget posted that gives you an outline of their expenses and how that kind of works out for them. So you could also review those. It's not the hot links that the city has, but it's what the school districts have used. So for what it's worth.
All right.
And by the way, Mr. Niles texted and said 203 graduates currently on track to graduate.
All right. The last popular input that I had was doing away with pay to play, which I think on pay to play, I think pay to play is strictly a budgetary thing. When we put in pay to play for this year, we were laying off teachers and letting positions go unfilled, and that's the reason pay to play came back. I anticipate, judging from Kelly's reports and Rick's confidence, that going into next school year, we're going to be in much better financial shape. And I think that it would be reasonable to say if we're in good financial shape, then pay to play goes away. That's my personal opinion. How about the opinion of the board members? Anybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We never really were keen on implementing it, but we had a pretty dire budget report. So we're doing the best we could to keep everybody afloat.
Is that really a goal? I mean, I know it's a goal, but is that a goal that I mean, I agree we have it for sure. We want to get away with it for sure. I mean, again, it's not one of those things that keeps students maybe from coming or makes them leave, but is that really a board level goal?
I wouldn't think so.
We implemented
Well,
it.
I think the goal is really to go into the year financially stable and doing well enough that we're not laying teachers off and we don't have to cut people's budgets down and put in pay to play and such. I think that's an overall district goal, is to be in a good place financially. And I guess it would be a board goal in the sense that we did pass a resolution to put pay to play back in, so we'll have to pass a resolution to remove it again.
Right, but usually goals are there's things we can do to achieve them. Is there anything we can do to financially, we as a board can do, Rick, and certainly his team can do it, Or is there something we can as a board do to make that, achieve that goal?
Only by driving a well-balanced budget actively on the ground. The board doesn't really do anything on the ground, so that's going to be up to them to get that balanced budget and us to make the judgment call that it's balanced enough to take pay to play out.
Hey, again, if we want that as a goal, I'll support it. I just question that, you know.
Well, where are these goals coming from, Kevin? These aren't our board goals that we set.
When I asked for goals last week, board members emailed me.
Oh,
He said last week. Last time we met, I asked people for any goals they would like the district or the board to have going forward. And people emailed me or talked to me about what they thought was important for the board to focus on as a goal. And a lot of people put in, or I'll say 4 people put in the pay to play. So that's the reason it was in there, is they gave input and I was honoring their input and bringing it forth at the board meeting.
Yeah, good. So what do you think the next step is, Kevin? How do you see this proceeding?
Well, we have these goals sitting here. I've got them all written down, and I'm going to get with Rick with this list of goals. And from his end and Terry's end and Kelly's end, there'll be some of those that the process of implementing, for example, the financial reporting, they're going to do some work on that and present some stuff to the board. I think that the website and the transparency with the accounting, with the finances that we talked about, that's probably going to pull Devin into the discussion. And they're going to sit down and figure out what they can do to get that done and bring it to the board. And we're going to take a look at it. So that's the next step there. I think the strategic planning, again, I am stymied by COVID. Strategic planning should have been done last year. There's no question about it. But that was all put on hold. So some of it is a little bit broader. Some of it are just simple goals that we will get there as long as the state allows us to get there or the finances allow us to get there. But the rest of it's going to be wrapped up in strategic planning, which I am hoping that when this order is over with, we can go back to having meetings and having the MASB come by, which is this order goes till, is it March 30th, Rick?
Yes.
So I am hoping that first thing in April, we'll be able to sit down and get our strategic planning started that's going to incorporate any of those goals that we haven't taken care of in the interim.
are we
Right,
gonna,
but we should, even though right now COVID's handcuffs, sorry, Suzanne, so right now, even though COVID's handcuffs, it still needs to be a goal. I mean, I mean, we got to get that done, and that's, you know,
It does.
along with Rick and stuff.
are we
And
gonna
that's
have,
why we had this discussion, so the board can have a discussion and a consensus about the goals, even if we don't get them down as our official strategic plan. We have a direction for the administration to go and for the board to go.
are we gonna have a retreat?
The plan is to have, yes, a retreat and team building as soon as we're allowed to.
Goals weren't so
And-
specific. It seems like board goals should be more like increasing, you know, the curriculum scores or a better way to track everything and move us in an upward direction. It shouldn't be one item like pay to play. I mean, that's the board goals, I think, are more general. So, I mean, there are miniature goals, you know, like my goal would be to get all the kids back in school as normal and no masks and have everybody back in the school. That's my goal. My goal is to have all sports resume as normal. And, you know, I want to know how far we can push that envelope. I mean, I don't want everyone to have to, people are already emailing us constantly about what's going to happen next year and, you know, masks and these mandates, and people want back in school and we're still up in the air. And I mean, at what point do we have any control? we really don't, right? We're at the mercy of the health department, or are we?
A lot of it we are. There's no question about it. I can't tell you when we can have all of our students in the gymnasium and we can have a normal graduation.
Would we be breaking a law if we left it up to, it's your choice? You want to come to school and wear a mask, come and wear one. If you don't. We're not social distancing. Would we be in trouble?
Well, for that, we would definitely defer to our attorneys. Because when it comes to trouble, they're the ones that we need to listen to when it comes to state mandates and directives and such. As much as we might dislike masks and all that, we cannot stick the district's collective necks out.
I get that, right? I totally get that. But at some point, it just seems like kids are suffering, and we're talking about all these goals and.
No, we're talking about what we can control, or what we'd like to control, or what we'd like to see.
Right.
I say it's start of a discussion on goals. We should have started this discussion once the district got stable last year. Once we got Rick on board, we should have had these discussions talking about strategic planning and goals. And as soon as we got to the point that it was opportune to get that underway, we got COVIDized.
Now, I would really like to have a retreat
So
where we can all just spend 2 hours talking about what we all think.
And for sure, if they release us at the 30th of March, I'm sorry, say again.
I said I would prefer it to be in person.
Yes. And that's what I'm looking for. As soon as they release us and we can meet in person and have retreats and training sessions, I'm on that as much as I can possibly be on it to get us in first in line so we can get in there and get it done.
Okay.
Until then, we're all waiting.
Well, Suzanne, I agree with everything you said. I mean, we got the goals, but I counted down this list, and there's I think there's 12 or 13 there. I think that's too many. I think we need to, some of them can be transferred and they can become maybe Kelly's goals or Rick's goals. But I think we, at some point, if we get 5, if we get to the develop the computer science, that's something that we can drive. And we can't do it, but we can certainly drive it. Maybe that becomes part of the strategic plan, but maybe we want to go faster on that. But I mean, we need to choose what they are, and then we need to talk about them on a very regular basis. To get 13, it's too many, I think.
I agree.
It is, but these were really, it was whiteboarding, setting.
No, I get it.
We're not.
I just wonder how we get, okay, we brainstormed it. How do we get it to, these are the 5, 6, whatever the number is.
We got to have a retreat.
Yeah,
Right.
well, part of it will work itself out, because when it came to financial reporting, that's already going to be on the radar for Rick and Kelly to be taking a look at. When it comes to our website reporting, transparency for the public, Rick's going to be with Devin on that one, and those are going to become their goals. They're going to take care of the work, and the board's not going to have to touch it unless they come to us and say, this is what we've got, we need approval on. So a lot of those are going right into that somebody else's goals category rather quickly here. I think when we revisit these, when Rick takes a look at this list and starts making it his goals and other people's goals, then we're going to see this list shrink quickly.
We better start thinking of more ideas then.
Rick's back.
Yeah, hey, sorry about that. I lost my computer. I thought I kicked something, but now I can't get it to restart. So I just switched to my laptop.
Devin has another goal then. All right. That's our goals. Let's move on quickly here to the school use discussion, which, let me see, there was a document here somewhere.
We got something right before.
Okay. Yep, we have. Did everybody get the facilities use request pricing?
Was this
And I-
school
I sent that out just before the meeting. It's available for this discussion. It's certainly not the reason for this discussion, but after having a couple of conversations this weekend, I looked back into our board meeting minutes, and at the August 10th meeting, we had a discussion about facility use. And at that time, given the conditions and what we knew about the situation, we had put a pause on the use of our facilities for after-school groups, whether they were closely connected or loosely connected. We put a pause on everything. But in that discussion, we also said that the board would revisit the discussion in the second semester, and that started a week ago. So it's fitting and proper that we would have a conversation, take a look at the new status of things, and see if we want to have some of our, especially our more closely connected groups who are continually requesting use of our facilities, be able to schedule that. There was no official board action at the time, so the purpose of the discussion tonight for me is just to get kind of a general consensus feeling of the board and whether or not we should start using our, allowing the use of our facilities for after-hour groups.
Is there a big demand?
Well, from my personal seat, I think that
Yeah, in general, Suzanne,
There
the demand is from club level athletics, the wrestling club, baseball teams in the batting cage at the barn, baseball groups in our gyms just to throw, basketball groups. There are plenty of groups that are reaching out. They all involve Tecumseh students. Most of them involve Tecumseh staff, but some do not. And the wage schedule that Tom provided is just for you to have an idea of what it is that we charge these groups and which ones are more closely connected. And they're defined in that memo.
really it
My
boils
thought would
down
be
to,
if it doesn't interfere with our facility usage, that why wouldn't we?
right, and this is really because they've changed the guidance, they've changed the requirements with the health order, they've opened it back up. So we need to open the schools back up to be sure we're supporting our kids, no matter what the activity is. If we can support them, we should be supporting them. So I think we need to adjust our thinking, open up the schools and get the kids back in there for the extracurricular and after school stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
It's, all we're talking about doing is just reinstating what we've always done, correct? There's nothing new about this.
Right. We'd paused everything, so we would just go back to taking use requests and making decisions about what we can and can't allow in the buildings.
I guess my question would be to Tom, is this, I mean, he's already short-staffed. Is this going to be a burden on them?
Some of it will depend on the facilities use request. As far as like what Rick was talking about, the wrestling clubs and things like that, they don't pose a lot of work for us or extra work for us. We've had some bigger ones. There's been some bigger tournaments, and those would be a little bit. But if they're on the weekend, we can schedule around that and have people there or have people after. So we should be able to cover it fairly well, as long as they're not terribly big during the week or at night.
And you could always increase your costs accordingly to make sure you have enough in there for those special events that are larger or on weekends. I mean, you could double your price or whatever you had to do to make sure you had enough money to cover it and get it done, make it
Yes.
worthwhile.
We have a fee schedule, and so that's why I'm wondering, do we need to
Right.
adjust the fee schedule? I mean, I'd love to open the facilities back up. I just want to make sure that you're gonna have the coverage you need to get it done. Make sure you have the supplies you need to get it done and keep the schools to the high quality you have been. That's my only concern.
Right, yeah, in supplies and everything, I think we'll be covered just fine. The only resource that we seem to be continually limited on are people. So,
Right, so you gotta make it worth their while. Maybe you have to pay them more or double time or on the weekend or something.
right,
You
right,
have to charge more, you have to charge more. Is all I'm
Right.
saying. Whatever you need.
Tom, have you had a chance to review the fee schedule? I mean, does it make sense for you?
it does. There's obviously, I think there's some updating that needs to go on it. Mike Smith and I had started a little bit of the updates when he was here, and just with everything that's gone on since, haven't had a chance to get back to it, but there's some updates. But yeah, it makes sense to me. I
Okay.
mean, I think so.
As long as, is this gonna cover, I mean, you know, when you're talking double time, that's coming out of your budget, so we want to make sure that that's not necessarily the case.
Well, I think this is something that Rick and Tom
Oh,
can work out and figure out the fees and increase fees. I'm not even sure we even voted on the fees before, so.
Right, we certainly wouldn't, we wouldn't put ourselves in a position where we were costing ourselves extra. And that's one of the disclaimers, that would be very easily, communicated to any groups, is that we've got to cover our costs. So,
Right.
we can do that.
Well, I think that if you follow the health department guidelines, we're not gonna have big events, right? I mean, we're pretty limited on size.
Right, and most
We
of
are
these
talking
groups are,
about what?
most of these groups are talking about practices. They're not even talking about games or contests or meets of any sort. Right now, they're just asking to get into to work in our facilities because it's cold outside.
Well, I don't know if we
Alright,
have to, I don't know if we have to vote, but certainly my position is we should support these organizations and we should go back to where we were and let Rick and Tom do their job and make the right decisions.
Okay, I don't think that there needs to be a resolution if there's general consensus that the board supports returning to normal for facilities use. We will do that and we will start taking applications.
good.
Go for it.
Good, thank you.
all right. Now, if the board would allow me, we have legal representation here for our closed session. The chair would like to move that the closed session and action be moved to before action items on our agenda so that we can discuss with our legal counsel and not have them waiting for the next 20 minutes. Could I get support for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote for amending the agenda. Becky Brooks,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So we will amend the agenda and put the next item will be adjournment to closed session followed by action, if any is required for the closed session. Could I get a motion to adjourn to closed session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Uh-oh. Becky, are you with us?
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
We
Sorry.
can't hear you.
Oh,
Not very good either.
I apologize. It
Aye.
looks like the internet's getting the best of me. Suzanne,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Craig.
Aye.
All right, the chair votes aye. Let the record show at 8:17, the board is moving to closed session to consider material exempt from discussion and disclosure by state or federal statute, attorney-client privilege information pursuant to section PA 267 of 1972, section 8H. All right.
Did you
Tim
send
froze
a,
up there.
did you send a breakout room invite?
Yes, I did. Did you get it?
No, I don't have one.
Oh, you know what? There you go. It's because you signed out and back in.
There we
Tim,
go.
did you get the invite? Tim, did you get the invite to the closed session?
Evan?
Tim, are you there? Tim, did you get the invite to the closed session?
No. Uh-uh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You froze up for a little while.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna switch networks too or something because this sucks.
Okay, I'm gonna try
But
to.
no, didn't get an invite.
You did not. Okay.
Well, there's a breakout room here.
Yep, that's where you need to go.
I'm gonna
All right. All right, let the record show the board is returned from closed session at 8:45 PM. Terry, are you with us?
Yes, got it.
All right, thank you, Terry. All right, I will read a resolution. Resolution, Tecumseh Public Schools resolution authorizing appeal to the Court of Appeals. Let me see. There we go. I move that the board authorize its legal counsel, True Law Firm PC, to seek leave to appeal the January 22nd, 2021 Circuit Court decision to the Michigan Court of Appeals and to take all of the steps necessary to reverse or reduce the state aid deduction. Let it also be resolved that the board authorizes its legal counsel, True Law, to apply for funding from the MASB Legal Trust Fund to assist in appeal to the Michigan Court of Appeals. And let it be resolved that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Could I get support for that resolution, please?
Support.
Roll call vote. Tim?
Aye.
Greg? Greg, you're muted.
Aye.
Becky? Was that a yes, Becky? You're muted too. Okay. Tony?
Aye.
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Let the record show the board has adopted the resolution to proceed to the Court of Appeals. Next item on our agenda, action items.
Ready?
Becky, do you have the motions?
I do. I
Thank you.
hereby move to approve the 7,000 policies, the 7,000 series policies with corrections noted to policy number 7,230, gifts, value recognitions amount to be 100, and delete policy number 7460 as recommended by the policy committee members.
Support.
Roll call vote. Tim?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. 7,000 policies are approved. Next action item.
I hereby move to approve a resolution authorizing the naming of the baseball field behind the Compass Building, referred commonly to as the Hole, in honor of the accomplishments of the 1981 varsity baseball team, with a plaque naming the field as Naha Field in honor of Nahabadian team member.
Support.
Any further discussion?
I'm just really happy.
All right, roll call vote. I'm sorry, Becky, you broke
I'm
up.
just really happy we're doing it. So I think it's very cool.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Tim?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Resolution is adopted. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Ms. Brooks?
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the regular board meeting of January 25th, 2021, and January 2021 monthly check register.
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Consent agenda is unanimously approved. Next item on the agenda, superintendent's report. Mr. Hilderly?
Okay, as you can see, there are a number of committee meetings that we need to get organized. We can do these a couple of different ways. We can all break out our calendars and try to organize that tonight, or we could agree on a general date and time of the month to hold these meetings, and then Terry can reach out to the members of those committees to try to set them up. But we need to have a policy committee to finish reviewing the 8,000 policies. Possibly, if we could do it within an hour, we might be able to branch into the 9,000, but we definitely want to get the 8s done. That involves members Moore, Johnson, and Simpson. I need to have a facilities and grounds committee, Johnson, Moore, and Lewis, for a presentation from an energy management company, talking about saving us some money over time with some changes to our facilities. Need to have a budget committee meeting to talk about the budget planning process. That one could probably wait until maybe the first part of March, because we're still trying to get more information about budget projections. But we do want to get it on the calendar. And then curriculum is going to have a couple of THS course offerings to consider, and then talk about the language arts curriculum review process. So when I'm finished with my report, we'll talk about how we can best go about scheduling those meetings. We've set up the kindergarten registration fair that'll be coming up. Primary date of May 1st with a rain out date of May 8th. The reason that there's a rain out date is because that will happen outside, because we need, at least right now, to have a number of people available to do that. So we'll be putting up a tent close to the entrance here at the high school. That will give us access to the copy machine and computers and such. But that's on the books, and we're excited about the new group of kindergarten students for Tecumseh. An update on the bond project. The Building Futures Committee will get together again in late March, again in late April, and make a presentation to the board in May about what the committee has come up with for a proposal. That project will be a recapture of a little more than 7 mills that are set to fade off of the books over the next few years. But it does give the district the opportunity to address some facility needs now without raising the current tax rate for the community. On that, TMP has offered to do just kind of a quick summary for our 2 new members, Greg and Tony, on what has happened over the last several months with that. And I would invite one of the 2 members, either Becky or Suzanne, who have been a part of that committee, to join that conversation. That way we wouldn't have a board quorum, but we would have somebody in that meeting that has direct knowledge of the process. They would like to do that this week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. if the 3 of you are available. So
Rick, I
that's
think,
the report.
go ahead.
So the first question would be that last item, Greg, Tony, is Wednesday at 4 okay for about a 45-minute conversation with TMP?
Rick, if I may interject, I think it's February 16th with TMP, so that's next week.
Oh, it's next Wednesday. Okay.
Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday.
I don't have my calendar open. Didn't he just get in touch with us today, Terry, and ask us if Wednesday at 4 was okay?
My notes said the 16th, so I'm not sure.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
I'll try to
Hey,
find his email.
Rick, hold on just a second, Rick. I think Tim had a question.
Mhm.
Tim?
Yeah, I think they should come and present this to the full board. Because to be honest, I don't even really know what's going on with this. I know that we're talking about a $60 million bond, but what does that entail? What are the financials of it? I don't know anything of what's going on with this. So I know at one point we talked about a sinking fund. So I think the board has to have a little bit more information on what's going on here. So,
And this isn't a full presentation by any means. It's something that TMP did to offer at least a brief history of not the bond project, but what the committee is working with in terms of the 7.2 mils, how that was figured and what they're talking about doing. So the committee itself will come to the board with all of the details of what it is that they want to present. But he asked if new board members might want to be caught up, and I told him that I would submit that for discussion.
Did you figure out what
I
you
think
think?
I think it's a
Yeah, no,
I think it's a good
Terry's right.
idea
It's
to get the
16.
board caught up.
It's when, Rick?
I think it's a good idea to
His email says Tuesday, February 16th at 4.
Yeah.
I can do that. Can you, Tony?
Well, yes, but Kevin, go ahead. You were trying to say something.
Yeah, it's with the Zoom delay, it's really easy to step all over each other here.
Right.
I think that it's a good idea to get Greg and Tony caught up on the background and the basics of it. However, we have the bond committee meeting. Is there one scheduled already? Or if not, when are you going to schedule the next bond committee meeting? Because that committee has been COVIDitized, I guess. They've been on hiatus. I would like to see that bond committee get to a meeting and then the whole board get an update. I think that would be an admirable idea because it's been, Lord, has it been a year since we've really been into this, I think. So it might be a good idea to plan for both of those, to get them up to speed and then an update later.
We shut that down in the late summer. Was our last, I think it was July when we met last, and postponed until the spring. So it's been several months. And I'm sure that what we just want to be careful of is that we don't have a quorum of the board. So if we want to have, if we update Greg and Tony, and then we set up another meeting where we could talk with Tim and Kevin and Suzanne or something like that. I know the TMP would be happy to do more than one of them. We just have to be careful to not do it so that there's a quorum of the board involved in the conversation.
Well,
Right
I
now,
think it's important enough maybe to have a special meeting just about this because
what we don't
it's
want
a
to
big
do
deal.
is we don't want to circumvent the process by giving the board the information before the grassroots committee has the opportunity to finish their proposal.
Right. This is supposed to be a grassroots thing. This has nothing to do with the board. Becky and I really don't even give our opinion. We just sit there and watch. We really can't vote. We can't do anything. So TMP could probably put together a little presentation, or I can certainly be in the meeting with Greg and Tony at 4, or Becky can, but we really
Right, but it would be a disaster for them to come to us and we say no.
Right, or
That's really
prior to their ability to make a presentation, it also would be against my advice to make any changes or interpret anything before they've had the chance. I do think that it's a good idea for small groups of the board to meet with TMP to just refresh the thinking on how this process works, not get into what the ultimate proposal is going to look like, and what the committee is going to bring as its suggestions. Because there's a lot of hours of work by a lot of people. We don't want to cut that short.
No, and I've done this basically for 30 years. I've been involved in large bond projects like this. And the board, times when the board gets in it's not a good thing. In fact, it mostly never is. So it has to come grassroots. Those are the most successful programs. Yes, we got to give it our blessing, but the first thing for anyone who's not been in any of these meetings is to just understand what the process they have been through thus far. And maybe TMP can put together a presentation or something that everyone could kind of view on their own, or, we could call each other if you had questions. You can certainly call me anytime, but this cannot really come from the board. We can kind of give our opinion, but it's got to come from the grassroots. So whatever proposals they come forward and decide that we should put out in a bond, we just kind of go along with them and do it, and hope to God it passes and we support them. And the main support was around a new K through 4 building, right? Is that what it was, Rick, basically? So let Rick get with TMP and try and see what they think about other board members not being informed and what they think the best route is for this, because I don't want to interfere with this, the renewal of the pool bond either, by bringing this into the mix right now. And the climate still isn't really good. They thought it was it had a lot to do with the climate we're in right now with COVID, and everybody's, down, and money's tight, and nobody knew what the budget was going to be, and families are struggling. And so let's just slowly let this get back on track and go from there.
Well, I would love to hear TMP, but I will tell you right now, the thing that I'm going to want to make sure this committee is considering is the different funding options. Are they considering the sinking fund versus a regular bond? And I just want to make sure they're considering that.
So
Yeah.
the thing that, and this is something that you'll take away from the TMP meeting, is, they're the experts on it. That's what they do. That's how they get paid. So they're a really great guide for that. But really the thing to really focus on, with exactly what Suzanne said, is this is community driven. So this is the community saying, this is what we think we need. And then they bring that to the board.
And Becky, wasn't everything online? I think you can go and you can actually watch some of the last meetings. You can watch the whole thing. I think they're all taped.
I don't know. I'm not sure if that was a thing, to be honest. That I don't know if it was for public viewing or if it was just for folks that might have missed the meeting. That would be a question we asked them.
Yeah. The committee shares a folder of resources, and that folder does include a lot of the documentation as well as the meetings, but it's not really for board or public consumption at this point.
That's what I thought. But like I said, it's community driven. It's a really great process. So for what that's worth, I would definitely meet with them and understand how the process works.
Okay, and are we going to meet at 4:00 then on Tuesday, a week from?
Yeah, we'll hold that time.
And where will that be, Rick?
Tuesday the 16th. It'll be a Zoom meeting, so we'll send you a link.
All right.
Now, I can always sit out if a different board member wants to.
I have no idea what my agenda looks like, Suzanne, so I'll probably defer to you if it's during work hours.
Right, but I guess I'm wondering why we have a special thing for the 2 new board members when the other board members haven't even seen anything either.
Right. That's a good point.
Like Tim.
Well, I think so it's not misconstrued. When I say update the board isn't involved in the process, but I don't know what the status of the process is right now. It's been put on hold. Where do we sit? Just where they are in the process is the update I'm talking about, not the board being involved in the process. Okay. To that end, Rick, it may be advantageous. I don't care if it's something that it gets underway again, and you give us the process where they are, that they're underway, at what step they are, timeline projection. That's all we're looking for. Okay.
Okay.
All right. As for the rest of it, scheduling the committee meetings, I'm going to ask, since it's already after 9, we certainly don't need to do that at an open meeting. I think it might be more appropriate, given the time, that we do that, let Terry schedule that via email. It'd probably be better for the rest of the committees.
Okay. Yeah, we'll send you maybe even a doodle poll that will give you the opportunity to tell us when you're available.
All right. That was it for your report, correct?
That is it for my report.
All right. Next on our agenda, item scheduled for next agenda, which is on February 22nd, 2021. We'll have good news, I assume, will be our athletic report. We'll have discussion items, including the extended continuity of learning plan, presentation on third grade reading law, committee meeting reports. We'll have action items on the extended continuity of learning plan, along with the school of choice documents, the superintendent goals, and we may have some action items on some board goals, depending on what happens in the administration between now and then, which will bring us right to our closing, public comment. We did not have anyone contact me for public comment on open items. Board member discussion, comment? Any board member discussion or comment? Everybody's
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go back to the whole abnormal whole school year. And I am like over it. I'm so sorry for all these kids who have suffered through all of this, through athletics, through sports, through face-to-face learning, through I just want to move in any direction we can as fast as we can to get back to complete normal, not the new normal, the old normal, as soon as we possibly can without getting in trouble, Kevin.
Amen.
I know. That's all I have to say about that.
I just wanted to say real quickly is that, we have, Suzanne mentioned it earlier, we've received some emails from some concerned citizens. I just want to send a message to those citizens that I have read your emails and I'm following them closely, and I understand, and I will continue to monitor, and this topic's not going away. I think it was a little early to start making decisions about masks now, but I'm aware, and I commit to following this and doing what we can to help you.
Well, and to piggyback on that, Tony, we did pass a resolution last month. Essentially, that went to the governor and so forth, saying, hey, let's get the local control back at our health department and let them make the decisions here locally for us. So I think that'd be the step in the right move. So I'm all for more local control. So
I'm with you. I mean,
And amen to that too.
read that, and I don't think that, I certainly don't mind people sending us those emails. I mean, we're elected, we're here to listen to that, but they're about 1 or 2 rungs on the ladder lower than where they need to address that. I support what they're trying to do, but they got to talk to somebody higher up than where we are on the food chain to make that happen. We didn't impose that stuff. We can't overturn it.
As I recall, we actually did just the opposite, and within 20 minutes, it got overturned. So
Right.
All right. Any other board member comment or discussion?
And Kevin, the only other thing that I wanted to mention, and I could have done this during my report, was just the sale of the the blue ribbon colon cancer awareness pins. In just very minimal effort, we've raised a few $100s to support Mrs. Fulton, who started her cancer treatments today and will be undergoing those for the next few months. So thank you to all the staff members and thank you to each board member. I know each of you has one of these pins in support of Jamie, and we wish her the best and any support that we can give her to make this battle somewhat easier is a very good thing. So thank you for supporting it.
Thank you, Rick.
So we're definitely keeping it in our thoughts.
Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Rick,
you
can I
all.
talk to you for a sec?
Thank you.
Rick, can I talk to you for a sec?
Yep, I'll stay on.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Aye.